The family justice system at its best will transform ordinary fathers into visiting MacDads. But at its worst, the system and those who run it will cut the ordinary father out of family life entirely. Based on nothing more than outdated social stereotypes, and despite everything that child experts say, the courts have become instruments of political social policy by insisting that the interests of the child are bound up in the best interests of the mother. So if you're a man, why have children if they're going to be taken from you upon separation? Why get married if for the rest of your life you become not much more than a wage slave, simply in order to see your child a few minutes a year? I suspect that if the law were as tilted towards men as it is now to women, we will behave in the same way. So it's little wonder that many women are tempted to abuse the system, all the while it works in their favour.
I had one mother who said to me, tell him, give me the money and he can have contact.
I mean, you're in front of this woman who's saying, he can see the kids if he gives me money. I mean, do you not just go, you fucking bitch?
Well, the problem is that when you're actually acting with someone, well, you probably think.
I would. I'd be a crap lawyer.
You think? Well, this is the thing, because when you're acting for someone, there are boundaries that the limits what you can say. You can say, well, basically, I don't want to work for you anymore, because I mean, if you're not going to take the advice.
But I mean, internally, does your soul not wither?
Well, you do. This is why it's a thankless task, and that's why I don't want to actually work in that environment.
I equally think it's human, her reaction. The law is allowing her to do this.
Women litigants are becoming, or have become, adept at manipulating the system, and the system is capable of being manipulated. And if someone is implacably hostile and simply won't give contact and brainwashes the child against the father, then there's very little one can do.
The judge makes an order for contact, the mother disobeys. What can the judge do? He can fine the mother or send her to prison. Now, typically she's got no money, so the fine isn't a possibility. So, to send her to prison, what does that do for the children?
The government is saying it will extend powers for judges beyond imprisonment. And the reason they're doing that is because now the mantra is, you know, if you put the mother in jail, how is that in the interests of the child? Well, it's in the interests of the child that when she gets out, she won't do it again. But the best this government can come up with, and this really does show the lack of intellectual rigour, the lack of imagination behind this claptrap, frankly, is that if a mother prevents contact, she might be made to pay the dad's expenses if he's booked a holiday. He doesn't want a fucking holiday. He wants to hold his child. 4 out of 10 mothers, that's 40%, admit to having obstructed contact between children and their fathers. And the family law system does nothing. Doing nothing nearly always means giving in to the mother, who of course is claiming all her demands are in the best interest of the children.
It's a form of moral laziness. They just make the decision that you know, mum's upset when dad has contact. Mum being upset is bad for the child, and so the court says, well, we better stop dad seeing child, even though he's done nothing wrong. I mean, that is a complete pattern. It happens time and time again, and it's actually the justification for taking a child overseas. Mum will be upset if she's not allowed to go and live in Australia. Therefore, she must be allowed to go and live in Australia. You know, we see that all the time, week in, week out. In my own case, I don't want to go on about my own case, but he lives in Japan. We have a great relationship. He came at Christmas. But I hadn't seen him for 18 months, and I'm entirely dependent on his mother's goodwill, whether or not he comes. There's absolutely nothing else I can do. I can talk to him on the phone and so on. But, you know, there's just endless such stories.
Do you have anxiety before he comes, or are you just, is it a longing, or is it a mixture?
Actually, very hard to describe, actually. I mean, you know what happens? I don't actually. It's all off in a little zone somewhere, and I don't think about it. I shut it out. And then when he comes, it's great. let me go so I bottle it up again for another year.
After taking his son away, Jim Parton's ex-wife changed his son's family name. You remove the final connection. You airbrush the past, and the father has disappeared. It's relatively easy for a mother to change their child's surname, and as little a father can do in this situation, it's futile to turn to the law, as the law clearly does not protect men, as our first woman law lord, Dame Brenda Hale, made very clear recently. She said it was a very poor kind of parent who would insist upon calling the child by its own name. So not only had this man lost his last viable connection with his child in this particular case, but he had been told he was a bad dad for trying to keep any sort of relationship going. How devastating.
It's a way of excluding the father. And what does the father think? Why did the mother do it? It was for reasons to do with her, not to do with the child. And to say that he was a bad father because he objected, I mean, I'm sorry, with every respect to a very senior judge, this judge doesn't agree.
There seems to be an all-pervasive suspicion of men lodged deep within the family court system. It's based on some perverse notion that men themselves, by virtue of their masculinity, are unfeeling brutes, incapable of love or clear displays of affection. But with this sort of attitude, it's very easy for a woman to prevent a father from raising his child, and the quickest and easiest way to do this is to utter two magic words. Domestic violence. You must hear it all the time to stop dads from seeing their kids.
Well, that's not the only sort of allegation. What about sexual abuse? It's very easy for the mother to say, and very difficult for the father to disprove.
The whole apparatus of the system, based on nothing more than flagrant prejudice and clear discrimination and bias, can bear down so strongly on a father that he will start to view his every action with doubt. Normal day-to-day behaviour of a loving father becomes sinister and threatening. I felt very nervous when I slept with my little 4-year-old when she came over and spent the night, and she insisted on spending the night, and I thought all hell's going to break loose now, because she slept with us to the age of 3.